Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of a background on Friend MTS first. So, Friend MTS is a content security company. We've been working in kind of the pay TV world for a very long time, currently nearly 20 years. We provide a great deal of services to help pay TV operators, to help the broadcasters, any of the content owners out there. And this is both in a scenario of live material, so live sports, for example, and also video on demand. But we help them to essentially make sure that they're able to get the revenue reach that they need by primarily going out there and detecting where piracy is taking place, by disabling that piracy, and also through various messaging, try and deter that. And the deterrent is primarily by taking down a lot of the piracy services that are out there in market, and there are a vast quantity out there. So what's really driving piracy? I mean, it's primarily around getting easy access to content. Content is available in a variety of distributed platforms, whether it be OTT, whether it be live, etc. And as a subscriber like myself, I have to try and take out packages for about maybe 10 or 15 different services in order to get a good breadth of material into my household. And as a result of that, the prices you pay for as a consumer to get access to that content is very, very high. So this issue of subscriber stacking or subscription package stacking is it does cause some issues with around folks and their willingness to pay for that content. And as a result of that, we do see churn going up. With the more subscriber services that are launched, we see churn from one service to another service, perhaps even over just a short period of time. Someone subscribes to a new OTT service for their niche content for a month or so, and then will immediately churn to the next one. But more often than not, due to all of these services being stacked up, we see folks pulling back a bit, and then perhaps spreading their searches out for content somewhat wider. There are a vast number of pirate services out there that present themselves with user interfaces that are very compelling, that mimic the original content owners or the original platform's user experience very, very well. They use sometimes the same assets, ripping assets from the original provider's CDN by mimicking the tokens that are used for authentication, as described earlier by one of the other presenters. All of these things really, really contribute to the ease of which the pirates have to extract content and make revenue from it, leading the original rights holders to having serious losses due to someone else who's got their mic on. Obviously, leading to the original content owners losing revenue and the services losing revenue due to that mass piracy. So, what can we do to that? What can we do to help that? Well, there are a number of issues that we see with the various pirate services. Content getting aggregated and restreamed is a major problem. And from Friend MTS point of view, we think the way to mitigate that is to use a subscriber level watermarking solution, and that's something that we can generally help with. The second major problem we see with piracy is the attacks and the methods of pirating content. It's ever evolving, it's ever changing. So it's really, really key to provide really detailed insight into the behavior of those pirates, but also to come up with consumption insights as well. In Friend MTS, we have a platform which deals with the capture and monitoring of active piracy services out there. And we work diligently to mitigate those services by gathering intelligence, by infiltrating pirate services, gathering the necessary intelligence on the media they're carrying, and then obviously taking action where appropriate, whether that's providing that data to our broadcaster or operator customers for them to take affirmative action, or passing that across to law enforcement for them to take affirmative action. And another major problem that we see with content, not just from the large broadcasters or the large operators. It's actually there's a great deal of material that's high value from the user-generated content market. So if I'm a YouTuber and I'm recording my lifestyle videos that are being pushed to, say, for example, the YouTube platform, someone rips those and pushes them to an alternative platform, then I don't get the insight data from that. I don't make the revenue from that. And it's a major problem that's actually growing quite aggressively with those who have the multi-million subscriber counts for those UGC platforms. So how can we help? So Friend MTS have as I said earlier, they have a variety of different services that we deploy to our customers, and one of those is a service that we call ACID, and ACID is essentially it's the advanced subscriber or a subscriber level watermarking service. Now, ACID has been in market for 10+ years. It's very, very effective. It is by far the most widely deployed forensic subscriber level watermarking service on the planet. That's undebatable. And we've been working really, really diligently over the last 2 years or so on providing some major updates to that service. And very recently we launched the 4th generation of ACID. Now, the 4th generation of ACID is something that allows us to have very, very complete end-to-end protection of your content assets. So going all the way back to your broadcast, your original broadcast or your publishing chains, where you have forensic watermarks embedded in your media. That's essentially what we call the distribution watermark. Now, the watermark is present throughout the production chain or throughout your distribution chain, and is obviously visible by Friend MTS at the point where that material is played out. When we see that material out in the wild through a variety of different piracy sites as part of our capture and monitoring process, then obviously through our fingerprinting tools, we can rapidly identify what that content is, whether it's something that's of interest to us and our interest to our customers, and then obviously we will then take that for extraction, pulling out the various subscriber information that's relevant, and then passing that on to either our broadcast customers or onto law enforcement.
Cannot work.
Now,
really?
We have someone else with their mic on.
I can't.
So with the latest release of ACID, the ACID 4th Gen, we've upped our game quite considerably, and we've decided that we're going to enter the market of AB watermarking solutions. There are some really interesting things when it comes to AB variant watermarking. There are a deal of issues you have to manage when it comes to delivering AB, and one of the primary ones and the primary concerns is around content security. As with what is well known in the industry is that actually with AB watermarking, it is relatively trivial to defeat a number of the solutions out there simply by doing inspections of manifests or doing inspection of traffic, and obviously then detecting where you might consider an A or AB variant to be coming from, and obviously defeat that. There are also attacks inside AB whereby you can radically randomize the AB segments that you're getting, or pulling in variants, multiple variants from different subscribers. And we see pirates doing that in the wild, and it's a very worrying trend. But it's something that we think we've solved with ACID 4th generation. Not seem to have lost connectivity. So ACID OTT is obviously one of the most widely deployed variants of ACID, but we also have 2 other which are really key to the Friend MTS offering. There's ACID embedded, which is something which is essentially clients generated watermark, which is client composited. It's clients generated in a very, very secure, robust manner, typically done within the trusted execution environment of a managed and operator deployed set-top box. We have obviously ACID OTT, which is, again, it's another client composited, but done in a secure environment, in a robust application that has been highly secured and then deployed out to the field. And the third one, which I mentioned earlier, which is ACID OTT edge switched, which is our AB variant service, essentially where we're doing making a server generated watermark and a server composited watermark. And obviously the three variants that we have here are appropriate for very specific use cases. So we've broken down the use cases here into what we term the trust levels. So in the operator or supplier managed environment, where you have, you've got your own deployed set-top boxes, where you may have a hybrid set-top box, so a cable satellite set-top box, which has an IP in the back as well for hybrid purposes. It could simply be an IPTV set-top box or an OTT-enabled set-top box itself. Now, they typically, because they're running in managed networks or running in a very, very managed and tightly controlled build environment, we classify that as trust level 1. And trust level 1 is where you can see the ACID embedded watermark used very, very, very frequently. Now, in other environments where you may have an off-the-shelf or perhaps an operator supplied, but a box that's not managed by them, any kind of IPTV set-top box or an OTT-enabled set-top box, or like an Apple TV or Roku, something like that. Yes, we can deploy the ACID kind of embedded product there, and that can be very, very effective. But the trust level of those devices in some places it isn't quite as high, because obviously there are rootkits available, and in those environments, then it might be worthwhile looking at an alternative technology that wouldn't compromise the actual integrity of the watermark delivery process. So that's at the client side, where you're compositing that watermark for delivery out to end users. And obviously, client composite is the mechanism whereby you can get true identification of your end subscriber. Then we'll get down to the next trust level in this grouping, and that's where you've got third-party clients. So, for example, you're syndicating out your video material to a third-party source, and you don't have any control over the client app that your content's going to be playing in, or you don't have any control over the actual application stack itself. So that could be, again, it could be iOS devices, it could be Android devices, it could be a Fire TV device, or it could be essentially something as simple as a OTT web browser. So you've got a browser-based service. It could be in a connected TV where you don't have a trusted environment, and you've got a browser service there which you want to make your content available in. And typically, where you don't have that control and management of the execution environment, you really didn't want to be carrying out any secure compositing within that environment, as obviously the compositing could be compromised. So that's where we're now recommending actually bringing in the ACID OTT edge switch service, which is something where we actually do the generation of the watermark server side and the compositing server side as well. So a couple of useful things to go along with the rest of the services that we provide. Obviously, learning about piracy in industry right now is actually really difficult. There are a few organizations which expend a lot of effort on promoting headline-making statistics around the volume of piracy that is out there in market. And one of the big problems that we have at Friend MTS with the statistics we see about piracy is that generally they're very misleading. They're based on large-scale extrapolation. So as a result, customers of ours get a very distorted view of the impact of piracy on their services. So that's one of the reasons why we decided that we needed to have an add-on service to our portfolio, which is ACID IQ. And ACID IQ essentially, it's there to detect and flag when subscribers obviously are essentially repeat behavior that we see out in market through our capture and monitoring. And And obviously, we're able to very, very quickly see where not only content leaks, but also the origin of that content leak and the behaviors that led to that content leak. So it means that we're, throughout IQ, we're able to not only notify the customers very, very rapidly when we think the breaches are going to occur due to operation of one of their customers, but it means we can detect that fraudulent behavior very, very quickly in near real time and shut it down, which is the critical thing for maintaining revenue. The other interesting service that we've brought to market is a service called Piracy Iq. And that's, we spend a lot of effort going out, obviously infiltrating piracy services, gaining data on those piracy services, gaining data on how they operate, the kind of material that flows through them. Obviously, we can't see every asset that's being consumed because we don't maintain analytics on the actual piracy services themselves. Only the pirates do that. Hence the problem with certain statistics reporting we see. But what we can do is through our scanning of those piracy services themselves, we get a good idea on the kind of content that's being deliberately shifted through these services. But we're also able to do some interesting reporting based on the trends that we see. For example, having the ability to match through fingerprinting certain assets and passing those fingerprints across to some of our partners, we're able to get a good idea for things like piracy on ISP networks, how much we think from a proportion basis is taking place and provide some analysis to help back up that data. We're able to provide real-time lists from an IP perspective on where content is being sourced from, or more appropriately, which pirate services are being made available on certain IP ranges, and enable ISPs to take action to block those IPs from their customer base. And through some of the other multidimensional reporting we have, we're able to provide some really, really concrete information on the impact of that piracy and the weaknesses we see in markets. Giving really, really precise data, accurate data around the piracy environment, but also demonstrating quite effectively, which pirate platforms are being used most, out there in market the most for viewing very, very specific niche content. And that's critically important, especially for the live sports broadcasters.